You know, I've often said, chums, that if you are going to sit down with somebody, and particularly somebody who, is very much esteemed, very much well read, and across many areas of that particular topic, you better know your onions, as they say, because quite frankly, these people will literally wrap you up and throw you away. And this is part of the problem now that you really truly have with the likes of daytime TV. You can see they bring these people on, experts in their field, and suddenly you've got a former children's TV presenter asking them questions that a researcher who clearly knows nothing either has done to them, given them to them, or they're being fed in their ear. And what's interesting about this particular debacle is the fact that it's so very clear that both of these people are being instructed on what to say, how to say it, and how to act. We're talking, of course, about the daytime TV show This Morning. Now, remember, a couple of years back, when it was the Philip Schofield scandal and stuff like that, they referred allegedly to their audience as tower block Tracies. Now, if you don't know the background to that, that is people who possibly live in a tower block, possibly unemployed, mainly called Tracy, the usual sort of thing, Croydon facelift hairstyle, smoking, possibly druggies, numerous kids sitting in just watching daytime TV, living on benefits. That is, of course, the stipulation that people try and make out. I'm not suggesting that myself, you understand. But when I worked on the show, and I've appeared a number of times on there, it's very clear exactly what they want you to do for the audience. I spectacularly fell out with ITV and This Morning because at that particular point, they wanted me to go along with their narrative regarding the Duchess of Sussex. And I said, no, this is not right. This is what I know. No, we're going down this angle. I said, no, that's not the truth. And it got really heated to the point that we never made it to air. I didn't really care because, who's watching this sort of dross? I know it can be company for people, but ultimately that's when you realise the mainstream media are twisting the narrative. They've done it for years, but now people have woken up with it, all thanks to the revolution of digital content creators and independent journalism. But where it gets interesting with Tom Bower that many of you may have missed is this. As ever, let me explain. Morning, chums, as I say, nice to see you. Welcome back, one and all. Lovely to have your company. One of the things I didn't like about This Morning, by the way, though, as well, was, the show at that point, I think it started at 10 o'clock, could be wrong, maybe 10:30, and they wanted you there by 8 o'clock, and they put you in like a cell-like dressing room, and somebody keeps knocking on the door asking, is everything all right? No, you've trapped me in here. I learnt that lesson very quickly. Make sure the driver takes you where you want to go, arrive when you think you're needed, This is the thing. They just want to see you in situ because they're so nervous that they can't ad-lib if the guest isn't there. That's your problem when you have presenters like Cat Deeley and, of course, Ben Shepherd. Both consummate in many respects, but both also children's TV presenters. I remember Cat when I used to pop along with pop acts to CD UK and SMTV and all that sort of stuff. Pleasant enough girl, but a presenter. Right? Not a journalist. There lies your problem. Now, you will notice when they sat down with, of course, the esteemed author Tom Bower, it was no cosy chat. And you may have seen this on other content creators, but this is really important, right? Because exactly, and I know this for a fact, this is exactly what they did to try and undermine him. You'll notice with other people that pop on with their book, for instance, a former host on the show, it's on the sofa, it's very cozy, clutching coffee cups. We're all friends, oh, I love my time on the show. Tom Bower, a man of a certain age, is suddenly given a rather uncomfortable high-seated position against a green screen of those two sat opposite him with low under-key lighting. Yes, good lighting on them, not good lighting on him, to make him look, dragon-like type of thing. And then, of course, the barrage started, right? And this is the problem where people don't pick up on it, because clearly there was not really any question. Tom eloquently has also answered the question with a bit of spirit, a little bit of, comedy and a smile is what he's very good at. But consequently, he's there to sell a book. They decided that they wanted a particular narrative. Now, where this gets interesting, in my opinion, is the fact that clearly they could have got a bigger story out of them. Now, we know the background that, of course, Cat Deeley is very good friends with Marcus Anderson. Marcus Anderson is good friends with the failing actress, former cable TV star, Meghan Markle. Why you want to back a loser? Really don't know. Cat Deeley and many people inside the ITV camp, right? They all have memberships to Soho House. It's a club. I can't begin to tell you. You know, others who know will know. If you go in these places, yeah, you're part of the group. But if you fail and you get it wrong, consequently, oh yes, without a shadow of a doubt, they drop you, right? Completely and utterly drop you because you've done something wrong. They don't realise this because they all think they're loved, right? Now, as you'll understand, Kat Deely and Ben tried their very best to, you know, take it off track. It didn't really work. So what was the point of the interview? Well, it's interesting to note, first and foremost, that Tom, who does many of his interviews via his own office and are linked through Zoom or one of those other platforms, well, he was told it had to be in studio. Initially, he thought he was going to be interviewed by the more affable Alison Hammond and Dermot O'Leary, right? I mean, they're far more cuddly, in my opinion, and warm at least. Oh no, that was very much switched, and the date he was given was irremovable because they were so busy, and this was the time that they could give him. So you understand already the setup, the gotcha that was there. It would have been a far easier thing with Dermot and Alison. And then, of course, as I say, they did the interview. Unremarkable, didn't particularly perform well for them digitally either because they didn't really learn anything or get anything new out of Tom Bower. But the bigger reason is this: behind the scenes, 100%, Marcus Anderson was fed down the line that interview because he wanted to see what was being said. Remember, this is ITV who decided to fire their breakfast show host simply because he stated on air that he didn't believe Meghan Markle's story, her truth. That's how much they're into them. But it also features this man. And this is, of course, a former friend of the Prince and Princess of Wales, Tom Bradbury. Now, he's the top cheese of ITV News, right? So where does he fit into the equation? Well, further down the line, you have to remember now that ITV News is all part of the same thing. So you've got This Morning, Loose Women, Lorraine, and all of that now comes under the umbrella of ITV News. That's why you see the interswitchable presenters. Somebody might be doing the Tonight programme, suddenly they're reading the news at 10. It's all cost cutting and you have to do it, right? Tom Bradbury has the final say over any news thing. He's the top man, even though, you know, the ratings for news at 10, like many news channels, are now hemorrhaging viewers on a daily basis. You see, the other side of it is this. They are hopeful, ITV, that if Harry does return back here to the United Kingdom, and more importantly, back here to literally London, they are hopeful they're going to get an interview with him ahead of the Invictus Games or at the Invictus Games launch alongside Markle. Remember, Tom Bradbury threw away a long-term friendship with the Prince and Princess of Wales just to get that coup in Africa with Meghan Markle and the rehashed and rehearsed speeches. Remember that. Now, what this really means is that obviously when you look at the bigger picture, Tom was on a hiding to nothing. In my opinion, he served himself well. It's just another interview. Clearly, they thought they'd done a good job. Lots of applause at the end of the show. Well done, Kat. You're brilliant. All the usual fluff. That is, of course, until they look at the ratings. You get the picture again. So behind the scenes, if you truly thought that this was just a simple, we're going to have a go, we're not going to do it on the sofa, we're not going to give him a warm, cuddly cup of coffee, let's reduce the lighting, all of that sort of stuff, well, truly, that was the name of the game. And as I said at the start of this video, what's fascinating is, remember, this is a company that used to refer, and again, the CEO has denied this, but I know this for a fact, as tower block traces. With all due respect, wouldn't they have learned something from an eloquent man like Tom Bower, something a little bit more entertaining than the usual thing that happened a couple of days later, where they're putting on fake eyebrows with Dermot O'Leary? I mean, that is the level of journalism that we're now seeing, of course, on This Morning. Now, I don't know about you, who do you think was the winner? Neil Sean in the very heart of London.